Proving you are special. When people with a fixed mindset up for success over growth, what are they really trying to prove? That they are special, even superior. When we ask them, when do you feel smart? So many of them talk about times they felt like a special person, someone who was different from and better than other people. Until I discovered the mindset and how they work, I too thought to myself as more talented than others, maybe even more worthy than others because of my endowments. The scariest thought which I rarely entertained was the possibility of being ordinary. This kind of thinking led me to need constant validation. Every comment, every look was meaningful. It registered on my intelligence scorecard, my attractiveness scorecard, my likability scorecard. If a day went well, I could pass in my high numbers. One bitter cold winter night, I went to the opera. That night, the opera was everything you hope for, and everyone stayed until the very end. Not just the end of the opera, but through all the curtain calls. Then we all poured into the street and we all wanted taxis. I remember it clearly. It was after midnight. It was 7 degrees. There was a strong wind, and as time went on, it became more and more miserable. I was part of an identified crowd. What change did I have? Suddenly, a taxi pulled up right next to me. The handle of the back door lined up perfectly with my hand, and as I entered, the driver announced, "You're different." I lived for this moment. Not only was I special, it could be detected from a distance. The self-esteem movement encouraged this kind of thinking and has even invented devices to help you confirm your superiority. I recently came across an ad for such a product. Two of my friends sent me an illustrated list each year of the top 10 things they didn't get me for Christmas. From January through November, they clip candidate items from catalog or download them from the internet. In December, they select the winners. One of my all-time favorites is Pocket Toilet, which you fold up and return to your pocket after using. This year, my favorite was the "I Love Me" mirror. A mirror with "Love Me" in a huge capital letters written across the bottom half. By looking into it, you cannot misstir the message to yourself and not wait for the outside world to announce your specialness. Of course, the mirror is harmless enough. The problem is when special begins to meet better than others. A more valuable human being, a superior person, an entitled person. Special, superior, entitled. John McEnroy had a fixed mindset. He believed that talent was all. He did not love to learn. He did not thrive on challenges. When the going got rough, he often folded. As a result, by his own admission, he did not fulfill his potential. But his talent was so great that he was the number one tennis player in the world for 4 years. Here he tells us what it was like to be the number one. McEnroe used sawdust to absorb the sweat on his hand during a match. The sawdust was not to his liking. So he went over to the can of sawdust and knocked it over with his racket. His agent, Gary, came dashing over to find out what was wrong. "You call that sawdust?" I said. I was actually screaming at him. The sawdust was ground to fine. "This looks like a rat poison. Cannot you get anything right?" So Gary ran out and 20 minutes later came back with a fresh can of coarser sawdust and $20 less in his pocket. He would have to pay a union employee to clean up a 2x4. This is what it was like to be number one. He goes on to tell us about how he once threw up all over a dignified Japanese lady who was hosting him. The next day, Sibao apologized to him and presented him with a gift. This, McEnroe proclaims, is also what it was like to be number one. Everything was about you. Did you get everything you need? Is everything okay? We will pay you this, we will do that, we will kiss your behind. You only have to do what you want. Your reaction to anything else is get the hell out of here. For a long time I didn't mind it a bit. Would you? So let's see, if you are successful, you are better than other people, you get to abuse them and have them grovel in the fixed mindset. This is what can pass for self-esteem. As a contrast, let's look at Michael Jordan, growth-minded athlete par excellence, whose greatness is regularly proclaimed by the world. Superman God in person, just as in tennis shoes. If anyone has reason to think of himself as special, it's he. But here is what he said when his return to basketball caused a huge commotion. I was shocked with the level of intensity with my coming back to the game created. People were praising me like I was a religious cult or something. That was very embarrassing. I am a human being like everyone else. Jordan knew how hard he had worked to develop his ability. He was a person who had struggled and grown, not a person who was inherently better than others. Tom Wolfe, in The Right Stuff, described the elite military pilot who eagerly embraced a fixed mindset. Having passed one rigorous test after another, they think of themselves as special, as people who were born smarter and braver than other people. But Chuck Yeager, the hero of The Right Stuff, begged to differ. There is no such a thing as a natural born pilot. Whatever my aptitude or talents, becoming a proficient pilot was hard work, really a lifetime learning experience. The best pilots fly more than the others. That's why they are the best. Like a Michael Jordan, he was a human being. He just stretched himself farther than most. In short, people who believe in fixed traits feel an urgency to succeed, and when they do, they may feel more than pride. They may feel a sense of superiority, and success means that their fixed traits are better than other people's. However, lurking behind that self-esteem of the fixed mindset is a simple question. If you are somebody when you are successful, what are you when you are unsuccessful? Mindset change, the meaning of failure. The Martin worshipped their 3-year-old Robert and always brag about his feats. There had never been a child as bright and creative as theirs. Then Robert did something unforgivable. He didn't get into the number one preschool in New York. After that, the Martin called toward him. They didn't talk about him the same way, and they didn't treat him the same pride and affection. He was no longer their brilliant little Robert. He was someone who had discredited himself and shamed them. At the tender age of 3, he was a failure. As a New York Times article points out, failure has been transformed from an actions I failed to an identity I am a failure. This is especially true in the fixed mindset. When I was a child, I too worried about meeting Robert's fate. In 6th grade, I was the best speller in my school. The principal wanted me to go to a citywide competition, but I refused. In 9th grade, I excelled in French, and my teacher wanted me to enter a citywide competition against a refuse. Why would I risk turning from a success into failure, from a winner into a loser? Ernie Els, the great golfer, worried about this too. Els finally won a major tournament after a 5-year dry spell in which match after match slipped away from him. What if he had lost this tournament too? I would have been a different person, he tells us. He would have been a loser. It's April when the skinny envelopes, the rejection letters arrive from colleges. Countless failures are created coast to coast. Thousands of brilliant young scholars become the girl who didn't get into Princeton or the boy who didn't get into Stanford. Defining moment. Even in the growth mindset, failure can be a painful experience, but it doesn't define you. It's a problem to be faced, deal with, and learn from. Jim Marshall, former defensive player for the Minnesota Vikings, released that could easily have made him into a failure. In the game against the San Francisco 49ers, Marshall spotted the football on the ground. He scooped it up and ran for a touchdown as the crowd cheered, but he ran the wrong way. He scored for the wrong team, and on national television, it was the most devastating moment of his life. The same was overpowering, but during halftime, he thought, if you make a mistake, you got to make it right. I realized I had a choice. I could sit in my misery or I could do something about it. Pulling himself together for the second half, he played some of his best football ever and contributed to his team's victory. Nor did he stop there. He spoke to the groups he answered later that poured in from people who finally had the courage to admit their own shameful experiences. He heightened his concentration during games instead of letting the experience define him. He took control of it. He used it to become a better player, and he believed a better person. In the fixed mindset, however, the loss of one's self to failure can be a permanent, haunting trauma. Burnout lows you was on the top chef in the world. Only a handful of restaurants in all of France received the supreme rating of 3 stars from the Guide Michelin, the most respected restaurant guide in Europe. His was one of them. Around the publication of the 2003 Guide Michelin, however, Mr. Luciu committed suicide. He had lost 2 points in another guide, going from a 19th to a 17th in the Gold Milo, and there were rampant rumor that he would lose one of his 3 stars in the new guide, although he did not. The idea of failure had possessed him. A man of such a talent or originality could easily have planned for a satisfying future with or without the 2 point or the 3rd star. In fact, the director of the Cult Milo said it was unimaginable that their rating could have taken his life, but in the fixed mindset it is imaginable. Their lower rating gave him a new definition of himself. Failure has been striking what counts as failure in the fixed mindset. So, on a lighter note, my success is your failure. Last summer, my husband and I went to a dude ranch, something very novel since neither of us had ever made contact with a horse. One day, we signed up for a lesson in fly fishing. It was taught by a wonderful 8-year-old cowboy-type fisherman who showed us how to cast a fishing line and then turn us loose. We soon realized that he had not taught us how to recognize when the trout bit the lure, what to do when the trout bit the lure, or how to reel the trout in if, by some miracle, we got that far. Well, time passed, the mosquito speed, but not so the trout. None of the dozen or so of us made the slightest progress. Suddenly, I hit the jackpot. Some careless trout bit hard on a mailer, and the fisherman who happened to be right there talked me through the rest, and I had me rainbow trouts. Reaction 1. My husband David came running over, beaming with pride and saying, "Life with you is so exciting." Reactions 2. That evening when we came into the dining room for dinner, 2 men came up to my husband and said, "David, how are you coping?" David looked at them blankly. He had no idea what they were talking about. Of course he didn't. He was the one who thought my catching the fish was exciting, but I knew exactly what they mean. They had expected him to feel diminished, and they went on to make it clear that that's exactly what my success had done to them. Share, cheat, blame. Not a recipe for success. Beyond how traumatic a setback can be in a fixed mindset, this mindset gives you no good to receive. Beyond how traumatic a setback can be in a fixed mindset, this mindset gives you no good receipt for overcoming it. A failure means you lack competence or potential, that you are a failure. Where do you go from there? In one study, 7th grader told us how they would respond to an academic failure, a poor test grade in a new course. Thus, with a growth mindset, no big surprise, said they would study harder for the next test. But those with the fixed mindset said they would study less for the next test. If you don't have the ability, why waste your time? And they say they would seriously consider cheating. If you don't have the ability, they thought you just have to look for another way. What's more, instead of trying to learn from and repair their failures, people with a fixed mindset may simply try to repair their self-esteem. For example, they may go looking for people who are even worse off than they are. College students, after doing poorly on a test, were given a chance to look at tests of another student. Those in the growth mindset look at the test of the people who had done far better than they had. Usually they wanted to correct their deficiency, but students in a fixed mindset choose to look at the tests of people who had done really poorly. That was their way of feeling better about themselves. Jim Collins tells in A Good to Great of a similar thing in the corporate world. As Procter & Gamble searched into the paper goods business, Scott Paper, which was then the leader, just gave up. Instead of mobilizing themselves and putting up a fight, they said, "Oh well, at least there are people in the business worse off than we are." Another way people with a fixed mindset try to repair their self-esteem after a failure is by assigning blame or making excuses. Let's return to John McEnroe. It was never his fault. One time he lost a match because he had a fever. One time he had a backache. One time he fell victim to expectation. Another time to the tabloid. One time he lost to a friend because the friend was in love and he was not. One time he ate too close to the match, one time he was too chunky, another time too thin. One time it was too cold, another time too hot. One time he was undertrained, another time overtrained. His most agonizing loss, and the one that still keeps him up nights, was his loss in the 1984 French Open. Why did he lose after leading even handily 2 sets to none? According to McEnroe, it was not his fault. An NBC cameraman had taken off his headset and the noise started coming from the side of the court. Not his fault. So he didn't train to improve his ability to concentrate or his emotional control. John Wooden, the legendary basketball coach, says you are not a failure until you start to blame. What he means is that you can still be in the process of learning from your mistakes until you deny them. When Enron, the energy giant, felt toppled by a culture of arrogance, whose fault was it? Not mine, insisted Jeffrey Skellin, the CEO of Resident Genius. It was the world's fault. The world did not appreciate what Enron was trying to do. What about the Justice Department investigation into massive corporate deceptions? A witch hunt. Jack Wall, the growth-minded CEO, had a completely different reaction to one of the General Electric's fiascos. In 1986, General Electric broke Peter Peabody, a Wall Street investment banking firm. Soon after the deal closed, Peter Peabody was hit with a big insider trading scandal. A few years later, calamity struck again in the form of Joseph Jeff, a trader who made a bunch of fictitious trades to the tune of $100 million to pump up his bonus. Welch phoned 14 of his top GE colleagues to tell them the bad news and to apologize personally. I blame myself for the disaster. Welch said. Mindset and depression. As a psychologist and an educator, I am vitally interested in depression. It runs wild on college campuses, especially in February and March. The winter is not over. The summer is not in sight. Work has piled up and relationships are often frayed. Yet it's been clear to me for a long time that different students handle depression in dramatically different ways. Some let everything slide. Others, though feeling wretched, hang on. They direct themselves to class, keep up with their work, and take care of themselves so that when they feel better, their lives are intact. Not long ago, we decided to see whether mindset play a role in this difference. To find out, we measure students' mindset and then had them keep an online diary for 3 weeks in February and March. Every day, they answer a question about their mood, their activity, and how they were coping with problems. Here's what we discover. First, the student with the fixed mindset had a higher level of depression. Our analysis showed that this was because they ruminated over the problem and setback, essentially tormenting themselves with the idea that the setback meant they were incompetent or unworthy. It just kept circulating in my head. You are a dope. I just couldn't let go of the thought that this made me less of a man. Again, failures labeled them and left them no route to success. And the more depressed they felt, the more they let things go, and less they took actions to solve their problem. For example, they didn't study what they needed to. They didn't hand in their assignment on time and didn't keep up with their course. Other students with a fixed mindset show more depression. There were still plenty of people with a growth mindset who felt pretty miserable, this being peak season for depression. And here we saw something really amazing. The more depressed people with the growth mindset felt, the more they took action to confront their problem. The more they made sure to keep up with their schoolwork, and the more they kept up with their life. The worse they felt, the more determined they became. In fact, from the way they acted, it might have been hard to know how despondent they were. Here is a story a young man told me. I was a freshman, and it was the first time I had been always away from home. Everyone was a stranger and the courses were hard, and as the year wore on, I felt more and more depressed. Eventually, it reached a point where I could hardly get out of bed in the morning, but every day I forced myself to get up, shower, save, and do whatever it was I needed to do. One day, I really hit a low point and I decided to ask for help. So I went to the teaching assistant in my physiology course and asked for her advice. Are you going to classes? Yes. Are you keeping up with your reading? Yes. Are you doing okay with your exam? Yes. Well, then you are not depressed. Yes, he was depressed, but he was coping the way people in the growth mindset tend to cope, with determination. Does not temperament have a lot to do with it? Are not some people sensitive by nature while others just let things roll off their back? Temperament certainly plays a role, but mindset is an important part of the story. When we taught people the growth mindset, it changed the way they reacted to their depressed mood, the worse they felt. The more motivated they become and the more they're confronted by the problem that faced them. In short, when people believe in a fixed trait, they are always in danger of being measured by a failure. It can define them in a permanent way, smart or talented as they may be. This mindset seems to rob them of their coping resources. When people believe their basic qualities can be developed, failure may still hard, but failure do not define them. And if abilities can be expanded, if change and growth are possible, there are still many paths to success. Mindset changed the meaning of effort. As children, we were given a choice between the talented but erratic hare and the plodding but steady tortoise. The lessons were supposed to be that slow and steady wins the race, but really did any of us ever want to be the tortoise? No, we just wanted to be a less foolish hare. We wanted to be swift as to win a bit of more strategic say. The story of the tortoise and the hare, in trying to put forward the power of effort, gave effort a bad name. It reinforced the image that effort is for the plodders and suggested that in rare instances, when talented people dropped the ball and plodder could sneak through. The little engine that could the saggy baggy elephant and the scruffy tugboat, they were cute, they were often overmatched, and we were happy for them when they succeeded. In fact, to this day, I remember how fond I was of those little creature or machine, but no way did I identify with them. The message was, if you are unfortunate enough to be the run of the leader, if you lack an ailment, you don't have to be an utter failure. You can be a sweet, adorable little slugger and maybe even success. Thank you very much. I will take the ailment. The problem was that this story made it into an either or. Either you have the ability or you expand effort, and this is part of the fixed mindset. Effort is for those who do not have the ability. People with a fixed mindset tell us if you have to work at something, you must not be good at it. They add, things come easily to people who are true geniuses. I was a young professor in the psychology department at the University of Illinois. Late one night, I was passing the psychology building and noticed that the lights were on and some faculty offices. Some of my colleagues were working late and they must not be as smart as I am, I thought to myself. It never occurred to me that they might be just as smart as more hardworking. For me, it was either or, and it was clear I value the either over the or. Malcolm Gladwell, the author of the New York Writer, has suggested that as a society we value natural effortless accomplishment over achievement. Through effort, we end out our heroes with a superhuman ability that led them inevitably toward their greatness. It's as if Midori pooped out of the womb fiddling, Michael Jordan dribbling, and Picasso doodling. This captures the fixed mindset perfectly, and it's everywhere. A report from researchers at the Duke University sounds an alarm about the anxiety and depression among female undergraduates who aspire to effortless perfections. They believe they should display perfect beauty, perfect womanhood, the perfect scholarship all without trying. Americans are not the only people who disdain effort. French executive Pierre Cavalier says, we are not a nation of effort. After all, if you have savoir-faire, a mixture of know how and cool, you do things effortlessly. People with the growth mindset, however, believe in something very different. For them, even geniuses have to work hard for their achievement. And what's so heroic, they would say, about having a gift? They may appreciate an ailment, but they admire effort. For no matter what your ability is, effort is what ignites that ability and turns it into accomplishment. See Biscuit. Here was the horse who was Soberg and he was supposed to be put to sleep. In fact, here was a whole team of people, the jockey, the owner, the trainer, who were damaged. in one way or another, yet through their dogged determination and against all odds, they transformed themselves into winner. A down-and-out nation saw this horse and rider as a symbol of what could be accomplished through grit and spirit. Equally moving is the parallel story about Sea Biscuit author Laura Hillenbrand. Fought in her college years but suffered recurrent chronic fatigue that never went away. She was often unable to function, yet something in the story of the horse who could grip and inspire her, so that she was able to write a heartfelt, magnificent story about the triumphal. The book was a statement to Sea Biscuit's triumph and her own. Equally, seen through the lens of the growth mindset, this is our story about the transformative power of effort. The power of effort to change your ability and to change you as a person. But filtered through the fixed mindset is a great story about three men and a horse, all with deficiency, who had to try very hard. High effort, the big risk. From the point of view of the fixed mindset, effort is only for people with deficiency, and when people already know they are deficiency, well, maybe they have nothing to lose by trying. But if your claim to fame is not having a deficiency, if you are considered a genius, a talent, or a natural, then you have a lot to lose. Effort can reduce you. Nadia Celero made her film debut at the age of 10 with the Philadelphia Orchestra. Yet when she arrived at Juilliard to study with Dorothy DeLay, the great violin teacher, she had a repertoire of awful habits. Her fingering and bowing were awkward, and she held her violin in the wrong positions, but she refused to change. After several years, she saw the other students catching up and even surpassing her, and by her late teens, she had a crisis of confidence. I was used to success, to the prodigy label in newspaper, and now I felt like a failure. This prodigy was afraid of trying. Everything I was going through boiled down to fear of trying, failing. If you go to an audition and don't really try, if you are not really prepared, if you didn't work as hard as you could have and you don't win, you have an excuse. Nothing is harder than saying, I gave it all. I gave it my all and it was not good enough. The idea of trying and still failing, of leaving yourself without excuses, is the worst fear within the fixed mindset, and it haunted and paralyzed her. She had even stopped bringing her violin to her lessons. Then one day, after years of patience and understanding, the lady told her, listen, if you don't bring your violin next week, I'm throwing you out of my class. Tell her no. Thought she was joking, but Taylor rose from the couch and calmly informed her, I'm not kidding. If you are going to waste your talent, I don't want to be a part of it. This has gone on long enough. Why is the effort so terrifying? There are two reasons. One is that in the fixed mindset, great geniuses are not supposed to need it. So just needing it casts a shadow on your ability. The second is that, as Nadia suggests, it robs you of all your excuses. Without effort, you can always say, I could have been fill in the blank. But once you try, you cannot say that anymore. Someone once said to me, I could have been Yo-Yo Ma. If she had really tried for it, she wouldn't have been able to say that. Salerno was terrified of losing delay. She finally decided that trying and failing an honest failure was better than the course she had been on, and so she began training with Dalai for an upcoming competition. For the first time, she went all out, and by the way, won. Now she says, this is something I know for a fact. You have to work hardest for the thing you love most, and when it's music you love, you are in for the fight of your life. Fear of effort can happen in relationships too, as it did with Amanda, a dynamic and attractive young woman. I had a lot of crazy boyfriends, a lot. They range from unreliable to inconsiderate. How about a nice guy for once? My best friend Carla always said. It was like, yeah, you deserve better. So then Carla fixed me up with Rob, a guy from her office. He was great, and not just day one. I love it. It was like, oh my god, a guy who actually shows up on time. Then it becomes serious and I freak. I mean, this guy really liked me, but I couldn't stop thinking about how, if he really knew me, he might get turned off. I mean, what if I really tried and it didn't work? I guess I couldn't take the risk. Low effort equal to the big risk. In the growth mindset, it's almost inconceivable to want something badly, to think you have a chance to achieve it and then do nothing about it. When it happens, the night could have been its bit heartbreaking, not comforting. There were a few American women in the 1930s through 1950s who were more successful than Clara, both lose. She was a famous author and playwright. She was elected to Congress twice, and she was ambassador to Italy. I don't really understand the word success she has said. I know people use it about me, but I don't understand it. Her public life and private tragedies kept her from getting back to her greatest love. Writing for the theater, she would have had great success with a play like The Women, but it just wouldn't do for a political figure to keep penning tart, sexy comedies. For her, politics did not provide the personal gratification she valued most, and looking back, she couldn't forgive herself for not pursuing her passion for theater. I often thought that if I were to write an autobiography, my title would be The Autobiography of a Failure. Billie Jean King says it's all about what you want to look back and say, I agree with her. You can look back and say, I could have been blah blah blah. Polishing your unused endowment like a trophy, or you can look back and say, I gave my all for the thing I value. Think about what you want to look back and say, then choose your mindset. Turning knowledge into actions. Sure, people with a fixed mindset have read this book that says success is about being your best self, not about being better than others. Failure is an opportunity, not a condemnation. Effort is the key to success, but they cannot put this into practice because their basic mindset, their belief in a fixed trait, is telling them something entirely different, that success is about being more gifted than others, and the failure just measures you, and that effort is for those who cannot make it on talent. Questions and answers. At this point, you probably have questions. Let me see if I can answer some of them. If people believe their qualities are fixed and they have shown themselves to be smart or talented, why do they have to keep proving it? After all, when the press proved his bravery, he and the princess lived happily ever after. He didn't have to go out and slay a dragon every day. Why don't people with a fixed mindset prove themselves and then live happily ever after? Answers. Because every day, new and larger dragons come along, and as things get harder, maybe the ability they proved yesterday is not up to the test. Maybe they were smart enough for algebra, but not calculus. Maybe they are very good enough pitcher for the minor league, but not the majors. Maybe they were a good enough writer for their school newspaper, but not New York Times. So they are racing to prove themselves over and over, but they were where they are going. To me, they are often running in place, amazing countless affirmation, but not necessarily ending up where they want to be. You know, those movies where the main character wakes up one day and sees that his life has not been worthwhile. He has always been besting people, not growing, learning, or caring. My favorite is Groundhog Day, which I didn't see for a long time because I couldn't get past the name. At any rate, in Groundhog Day, Bill Murray does not just wake up one day and get the message. He has to repeat the same day over and over until he gets the message. Bill Connors, or Murray, is a weatherman for a local station in Pittsburgh who is dispatched to the Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania to cover the Groundhog Day. A groundhog is taken out of his little house. If he is judged to have seen his schedule, there will be another 6 weeks of winter. If not, there will be an early spring. Bill, considering himself to be a superior being, has complete contempt for the ceremony, the town, and the people. And after making that perfectly clear, he plans to get out of Punxsutawney as quickly as possible, but this is not to be. A blizzard hits the town. He is forced to remain, and when he wakes up in the morning, it's the Groundhog Day again. The same sunny and cheer song, I Got You Babe, wakes up him on the clock radio, and the same Groundhog Festival is going up once again and again. At first he uses to acknowledge the foreign's typical agenda, making fool out of other people since he is the only wanderer living the day. He can't talk to a woman on one day and then use the information to deceive, impress, and seduce her the next day. He is in a fixed mindset heaven. He can prove his superiority over and over, but after countless such a days, he realizes it's all going nowhere and he tries to kill himself. He crashes a car, he electrocutes himself, he jumps from a steeple, he walks in front of a truck. With no way out, it finally dawns on him he could be using this time to learn. He goes for piano lesson, he reads voraciously, he learns ice sculpting, he finds out about people who need help that day and starts to help them and care about them. Pretty soon the day is not long enough. Only when this change of mindset is completely is he released from the spell. Questions. Are mindsets a permanent part of your makeup or can you change them? Mindsets are an important part of your personality, but you can change them just by knowing about the two mindsets. You can start thinking and reacting in new ways. People tell me they start to catch themselves when they are in the truth of the fixed mindset, pacing up with change for learning, feeling labeled by a failure, or getting this discouragement something requires a lot of effort. And then they switch themselves into the growth mindset, making sure they take the challenge, learn from the failure, or continue their effort. When my graduate student and I first discovered the mindset, they would catch me in the fixed mindset. They smile kindly and let me know it. It's also important to realize that even if people have a fixed mindset, they are not always in that mindset. In fact, in many of our studies, we put people into the growth mindset. We tell them that an ability can be learned and that the task will give them a change to do that. Or we have them read a scientific article that teaches them the growth mindset. The article describes people who did not have natural ability but who develop exceptional skill. These experiences make our researchers participate in the growth-minded thinker, at least for the moment, and they act like a growth-minded thinkers too. Later, there's a chapter all about change. There I describe people who have changed and programs we have developed to bring up. Questions. Can I be half and half? I recognize both mindsets in myself. All of us have element of both. We are all a mixture of fixed and growth mindsets. I'm talking about it as a simple either or right now for the sake of simplicity. People can also have different mindset in different areas. I might think that my artistic skills are fixed, but that my intelligence can be developed or that my personality is fixed. But my creativity can be developed. We have found that whatever mindset people have in a particular area will guide them in that area. Questions? With all your belief in effort, are you saying that when people fail, it's always their fault? They didn't try hard enough? No, it's true that effort is crucial. No one can succeed for long without it, but it's certainly not the only thing. People have different resources and opportunity. For example, people with money or rich parents have a safety net. They can take some more risks and keep going longer until they succeed. People with easy access to a good education, people with a network of influential friends, people who know how to be in the right place at the right time, all stand a better chance of having their effort pay off. Rich, educated, connected effort works better. People with fewer resources, in spite of their best effort, can be derailed so much more easily. The hometown plan you have worked in all of your life suddenly shut down. What now? Your child falls ill and plunges you into debt. There goes the house, your spouse runs off with the nest egg and leave you with the children and bills. Forget the night school classes. Before we judge, let's remember that effort is not quite everything and that all effort is not created equal. Questions? You keep talking about how the growth mindset makes people number one, the best, the most successful. Is not the growth mindset about personal development, not besting others. I use examples of people who made it to the top to show how far the growth mindset can take you. Believing talent can be developed allow people to fulfill their potential. In addition, examples of laid-back people having a good time would not be as convincing to people with a fixed mindset. It doesn't provide a compelling alternative for them because it makes it look like a choice between fun and excellence. However, this point is crucial. The growth mindset does allow people to love what they are going and to continue to love it in the face of difficulties. The growth-minded athlete CEO, musicians, or scientists all loved what they did, whereas many of the fixed-minded ones did not. Many growth-minded people didn't even plan to go to the top. They got there as a result of doing what they love. It's ironic. The top is where the fixed mindset people hunger to be, but it's where many growth mindset people arrive as byproduct of their enthusiasm for what they do. This point is also crucial. In a fixed mindset, everything is about the outcome. If you fail or if you're not the best, it's all been wasted. The growth mindset allows people to value what they are doing regardless of the outcome. They are tackling problems, charting new courses, working on important issues. Maybe they haven't found a cure for cancer, for the search was deeply meaningful. A lawyer spent 7 years fighting in the biggest bank in his state on behalf of people who felt they would be cheated. After he lost, he said, "Who am I to say that just because I spent 7 years on something I am entitled to success? Did I do it for the success or did I do it because I thought the effort itself was valid? I do not regret it. I had to do it. I would not do it differently." Questions? I know a lot of workaholics of the fast track who seem to have a fixed mindset. They are always trying to prove how smart they are, but they do work hard and they do take on challenges. How does this fit with your idea that people with a fixed mindset go in for love, effort, and easy tasks? On the whole, people with a fixed mindset prefer effortless success since that's the best way to prove their talent, but you are right, there are also plenty of high power people who think their traits are fixed and are looking for constant validation. These may be people whose life goal is to win a Nobel Prize or become the richest person on the planet, and they are willing to do what it takes. We will meet people like this in the chapter on business and leadership. These people may be free of the belief that high effort equals low ability, but they have the other part of the fixed mindset. They may constantly put their talent on display. They may feel that their talent makes them superior to other people, and they may be intolerant of mistakes, criticism, or setback. Incidentally, people with a growth mindset might also like a Nobel Prize or a lot of money, but they are not seeking it as a validation of their worth or as something that will make them better than others. Questions? What if, like my fixed mindset, if I know what my abilities and talent are, I know where I stand and I know what to expect, what should I give that up? If you like it, by all means keep it. This book shows people they have a choice by spelling out the two mindset and the worlds they create. The point is that people can choose which world they want to inhabit. The fixed mindset creates the feeling that you can really know the permanent truth about yourself, and this can be comforting. You don't have to try for such and such because you don't have the talent. You will certainly succeed and thus and such because you do have the talent. It's just important to be aware of the drawback of this mindset. You may be robbing yourself an opportunity by underestimating your talent in the first area, or you may be undermining your chance of success in the second area by assuming that your talent alone will take you there. By the way, having a growth mindset does not force you to pursue something. It just tells you that you can develop your skill. It's still up to you whether you want to. Questions? Can everything about people be changed, and should people try to change everything they can? The growth mindset is the belief that ability can be cultivated, but it doesn't tell you how much change is possible or how long change will take. And it doesn't mean that everything like preferences or value can be changed. I was once in a taxi and the driver had an opera on the radio. Thinking that start a conversation, I said, "Do you like opera?" "No," he replied. "I hate it. I have always hated it." "I don't mean to pry," I said, "but why are you listening to it?" He then told me how his father had been an opera buff, listening to his vintage record at every opportunity. My cab driver, now well into middle age, had tried for many years to cultivate a rapturous response to opera. He played the disc, he read the scores, all to no avail. Give yourself a break, I advise him. There are plenty of cultured and intelligent people who cannot stand opera. Why don't you just consider yourself one of them? The growth mindset also does not mean everything that can be changed should be changed. We all need to accept some of our imperfections, especially the ones that do not really harm our life or the life of others. The fixed mindset stands in the way of development and change. The growth mindset is a starting point for change, but people need to decide for themselves where their effort toward change would be most valuable. Questions: are people with the fixed mindset simply lacking in confidence? No, people with the fixed mindset can have just as much confidence as people with the growth mindset before anything happens. That is. But as you can imagine, their confidence is more fragile since setback and even effort can undermine it. Joseph Martocchio conducted a study of employees who were taking a short computer training course. Half of the employees were put into a fixed mindset. He told them it was all a matter of how much ability they possess. The other half were put in a growth mindset. He told them that their computer skills could be developed through. Although the two groups started off with exactly equal confidence in the computer skill, by the end of the course they look quite different. Those in a growth mindset gain considerable confidence in their computer skill as they learn, despite the many mistakes they inevitably made. But because of those mistakes, those with a fixed mindset actually lost confidence in their computer skill as they learn. The same thing happened with the Berkeley student, Richard Rubin, and the Jennifer Paul track student at the University of California at Berkeley over their years of college. They found that when students had a growth mindset, they gained confidence in themselves as they repeatedly met and mastered the challenges of the university. However, when students had the fixed mindset, their confidence eroded in the face of those same challenges. That's why people with a fixed mindset have to nurse their confidence and protect it. That's what John McConaughey excuses were for, to protect his confidence. Michelle Wie was a teenage golfer when she decided to go up against the big boys. She entered the Sony Open, the APGA tournament that featured the best male players in the world. Coming from the fixed mindset perspective, everyone rushed to warn her that she could do a serious damage to her confidence if she did poorly, that taking too many early lumps against superior competition could hurt her long-range development. It's always negative when you don't win, warned VJC, a prominent golfer on the tour. But we disagreed. She was not going to dare to groom her confidence. Once you win junior tournament, it's easy to win multiple times. What I am doing now is to prepare for the future. It's the learning experience she was after. What is was like to play with the world's best players in the atmosphere of the tournament. After the event, Miss Confident had not suffered one bit. She had exactly what she wanted. I think I learned that I can play here. It would be a long road with the winner's circle, but she now had a sense of what she was shooting for. Some years ago, I got a letter from a world-class competitive swimmer. Dear Professor Dweck, I have always had a problem with confidence. My coaches always told me to believe in myself 100%. They told me not to let any doubt enter my mind and to think about how I am better than everyone else. I couldn't do it because I am always so aware of my defect and the mistakes I make in every meet. Trying to think I was perfect made it even worse. Then I read your work and how it's so important to focus on learning and improving. It turned me around. My defects are things I can work on. No mistake does not seem so important. I wanted to write you this letter for teaching me how to have a confidence. Thank you. Sincerely, Mary William. A remarkable thing I have learned from my research is that in the growth mindset, you don't always need confidence. What I mean is that even when you think you are not good at something, you can still plunge into the wholeheartedly and stick to it actually. Sometimes you plunge into something because you are not good at it. This is a wonderful feature of the growth mindset. You don't have to think you are already great at something you to want to do it and to enjoy doing it. This book is one of the hardest things I have ever done. I read endless book and article. The information was overwhelming. I would never have written in a proper way. It was intimidating. Does it seem easy for me? Way back when, that's exactly what I would have wanted to think. Now I want you to know the effort it took and the joy it brought. Grow your mindset. People are born with a love of learning, but the fixed mindset can undo it. Think of a time you were enjoying something, doing a crossword puzzle, playing a sport, learning a new dance. Then it became hard and you wanted out. Maybe you suddenly felt tired, dizzy, bored, or hungry. Next time this happened, don't fool yourself. It's the fixed mindset. You put yourself in the growth mindset. Picture your brain forming new connections as you meet the challenge and then keep on going. It's tempting to create a world in which we are perfect. We can choose partners, make friends, hire people who make us feel faultless. But think about it. Do you want to never grow? Next time you are tempted to surround yourself with the worshippers, go to courage in the rest of your life. See constructive criticism. Is there something in your past that you think measured you, a test score, a dishonest or callous actions, being fired from a job, being rejected, focus on that thing, feel all the emotions that go with it. Now put it in a growth mindset perspective, look honestly at your whole role in it, but understand that it does not define your intelligence or personality. Instead, ask what did I or can I learn from that experience? How can I use it as a basis for growth? Carry that with you instead. How do you act when you feel depressed? Do you work harder at things in your life or do you let them go? Next time you feel out, put yourself in a growth mindset. Think about learning, challenging, confronting obstacles. Think about effort as a positive, constructive force, not as a big drag. Try it out. Is there something you have always wanted to do but were afraid you were not good at? Make a plan to do it. Chapter 3: The Truth About Ability and Accomplishment. Try to picture Thomas Edison as vividly as you can. Think about where he is and what he's doing. Is he alone? I ask people. They always say things like this. He is in the whole workshop, surrounded by equipment. He's working on the photograph, trying things. He succeeds. Is he alone? Yes, he is not doing this stuff alone because he's only the only one who knows what he's after. He is in New Jersey, standing in a white coat in a laptop room, is leaning over a light bulb. Suddenly it works. Is he alone? Yes, he is kind of a reclusive guy who likes to tinker on his own. In truth, the record shows quite a different fellow, working in a quite a different way. Edison was not a loner. Edison was not a loner. For the invention of the light bulb, he had 30 assistants, including well-trained scientists, often working around the clock in a corporate fun state-of-the-art laboratory. It did not happen suddenly. The light bulb has become the symbol of that single moment when the brilliant solution strikes, but there was no single moment of invention. In fact, the light bulb was not one invention, but a whole network of time-consuming inventions, each requiring one or more chemists, mathematicians, physicists, engineers, and glass blowers. Edison was no naive thinker or unworldly egghead. The Wizard of Menlo Park was a savvy entrepreneur, fully aware of the commercial potential of his invention. He also knew how to cozy up to the press, sometimes beating others out as the inventor of something because he knew how to publicize himself. Yes, he was a genius, but he was not always one. His biographer, Paul Israel, sifting through all the available information, thinks he was a more or less a regular boy of his time and place. Young Tom was taken with experiment and mechanical things, but machines and technology were part of the ordinary Midwestern boy's experience. What eventually set him apart was his mindset and drive. He never stopped being the curious, tinkering boy looking for new challenges. Long after other young men had taken up their roles in society, he rode the rails from city to city, learning everything he could about telegraphy and working his way up the ladder of telegraph first through non-stop self-education and invention, and later much to the disappointment of his wife, his consuming love remains of improvement and invention, but only in his field. There are many myths about ability and achievement, especially about the lone, brilliant person suddenly producing amazing things. Yet Darwin's masterwork, The Origin of Species, took years of teamwork in the field, hundreds of discussions with colleges and mentors, several preliminary drafts, and half a lifetime of dedication before it reached free editions. Mozart labored for more than 10 years until he produced any work that we admire today. Before then, his compositions were not that original or interesting. Actually, they were often patched together, chunk taken out the composers. This chapter is about the real ingredient in achievement. It's about why some people achieve less than expected and why some people mindsets and school achievement. Let's step down from the celestial realm of Mozart and Darwin and come back to Earth to see how mindset create achievement in a real life. It's funny, but seeing one student blossom under the growth mindset has a greater impact on me than all the stories about Mozart and Darwin. Maybe because it's more about you and me, about what's happened to us and why we are where we are now, and about children and their potential. Back on Earth, we measure students' mindset as they made the transition to the junior high school. Did they believe their intelligence was a fixed trait or something they could develop? Then we follow them for the next 2 years. The transition to junior high is a time of a great challenge for many students. The work gets much harder than grading. Police is tighten up and the teaching becomes less personalized, and all this happen while students are coping with their new adolescent body syndrome. Grades suffer, but not everyone's grades suffer equally. Now, in our study, only the student with a fixed mindset show a decline. The student with a growth mindset show an increase in their grades over the 2 years. When the two groups had entered junior school, their past records were indistinguishable. In the more benign environment of a grade school, they would earn the same grades and achievement test score. Only when they hit the challenge of junior high did they begin to pull apart. Here is how students with a fixed mindset explain their poor grades. Many maligned their ability. I am a stupid this or I am stuck in math, and many cover this feeling by blaming someone else. The math teacher is a fat male slut, and the English teacher is a slob with a pink ass, because the teacher is on a crack. This interesting analysis of the problem hardly provided a roadmap to future success. With the threat of failure looming, students with the growth mindset instead mobilized their resources for learning. They told us that they too sometimes felt overwhelmed, but their response was to dig in and do what it takes. They were like a George Danzig was a graduate student in the math at Berkeley. One day, as usual, he was in a late to his math class and quickly copied the two homework problems from the blackboard. When he later went to do them, he found them very difficult, and it took them several days of hard work to crack them open up and solve them. They turned out not to be homework problems at all. They were two famous math problems that had never been solved. The low effort syndrome. Our students with a fixed mindset who were facing the hard transition with saw it as a treat. It threatened to unmask their flow and turn them from winners into losers. In fact, in the fixed mindset, adolescence is one big test. Am I smart or dumb? Am I good looking or ugly? Am I cool or nerdy? Am I a winner or a loser? And in the fixed mindset, a loser is forever. It's no wonder that many adolescents mobilize their resources not for learning but to protect their egos. And one of the main ways they do this is by not trying. This is when some of the brightest students, just like Anaja Salimo, simply stop working. In fact, students with a fixed mindset tell us that their main goal in school, aside from looking smart, is to exert as little effort as possible. They heartily agree with a statement like this. In school, my main goal is to do things that as easily as possible so I don't have to work very hard. This low effort syndrome is often seen as a way that adolescents assert their independence from adults. But it is also a way that students with a fixed mindset protect themselves. They view the adult as saying, now we will measure you and see what you have got. And they are answering, no, you won't. John Hall, the great educator, says that these are the games of all human beings play when others are sitting in judgment of them. The worst student we had, the worst I have ever encountered, was in his life outside of the classroom as mature, intelligent, and interesting a person as anyone at the school. What went wrong? Somewhere along the line, his intelligence became disconnected from his schooling. For a student with a growth mindset, it doesn't make sense to stop trying. For them, adolescence is a time of opportunity, a time to learn new subject, a time to find out what they like and what they want to become in the future. Later, I will describe the project in which we taught junior high students the growth mindset. What I want to tell you now is how teaching them this mindset unleashed their effort. One day we were introducing the growth mindset to a new group of students, all at once, Jimmy. The most hardcore turn-off lovey-word kid in the group looked up with tears in his eyes and said, "You mean I don't have to be numb?" From that day on, he worked. He started staying up late to do his homework, which he never used to bother with at all. He started handling an assignment early so he could get feedback and revise them. He now believed that working hard was not something that made you vulnerable, but something that made you smarter. Finding your brain. A close friend of mine recently handed me something he would write in, a poem story that reminded me of Jimmy and his unleashed effort. My friend's second grade teachers, Mirza Spear, he had each student draw and cut out a paper horse. She then lined up all the horses above the blackboard and delivered her growth mindset message. Your horse is only as fast as your brain. Every time you learn something, your horse will move ahead. My friend was not so sure about the brain thing. His father has always told him, "You have too much mouth and too little brain for your own good." Plus, his horse seemed to just sit at the starting gate while everyone else's brain joined the learning chase. Especially the brain of Hank and Billy, the class geniuses, whose horses jumped way ahead of everyone else, but my friend kept at it to improve his skill. He kept reading the comic with his mother and he kept adding up the point when he played gin rummy with his grandmother, and soon my slick stallion bolted forward like her railway, and there was no one who was going to stop him. Over the week and the month, he flew forward, overtaking the other one by one. In the late spring home stretch, Hank's and Billy's mount were ahead by just a few subtraction exercises, and when the last bell of the school rang, my horse won by a nose. Then I knew I had a brain. I had the horse to prove it. Bold Wortman. Yeah, I'm sorry to read that like a song. Of course, learning shouldn't really be a race, but this verse helped my friend discover his brain and connect it up to his calling. The college transition. Another transition and another crisis. College is when all the students who were the British high school are thrown together like our graduate students yesterday. They were a king of the hill, but today who are they? Nowhere is the anxiety of being dethroned more palpable than in the pre-med classes. In the last chapter, I mentioned our study of dance. But hopeful undergraduates taking their first college chemistry course, this is the course that would give them or deny them entry to the pre-med curriculum, and it's well known the student will go to almost any length to do well in this course. At the beginning of the semester, we measure students' mindset, and then we followed them through the course, watching their grades and asking about their study strategies. Once again, we found that the students with a growth mindset earned better grades in the course. Even when they did poorly on a particular test, they bounce back on the next ones. When students with a fixed mindset did poorly, they often didn't make a comeback. In this course, everybody studied, but there are different ways to study. Many students study like this. They read the textbook and their class notes. If the material is really hard, they read them again, or they might try to memorize everything they can, like a vacuum cleaner. That's how the student with the fixed mindset studies. If they did poorly on the test, they concluded that chemistry was not their subject. After all, I did everything impossible, didn't I? Far from it. They would be shocked to find out what students with a growth mindset do, even if I find it remarkable. The student with a growth mindset completely took charge of their learning and motivation. Instead of plunging into unthinking memorization of the course material, they said, "I look for themes and underlying principle across lecture, and I went over mistakes until I was certain I understood them. They were studying to learn, not just to ace the test. And actually, this was why they got higher grades, not because they were smarter or had a better background in the science. Instead of losing the motivation when the course got dry or difficult, they said, I maintained my interest in the material. I stayed positive about taking chemistry. I kept myself motivated to study, even if they thought the textbook was boring or the instructor was stiff. They didn't let their motivation evaporate. That just made it all more important motivates themselves. I got an email from one of my undergraduate students shortly after I had taught her the growth mindset. Here is how she used to study before. When faced with a really tough material, I tended to read the material over and over. After learning the growth mindset, she started using better strategies that work. Because they think in the term of learning, people with the growth mindset are clued into all the different ways to create learning. It's odd. Our pre-med student with a fixed mindset would do almost anything for a good grade, except take a charge of the process to make sure it happens. Created equal? Does this mean that anyone with the right mindset can do well? Are all children created equal? Let's take the second question first. No. Some children are different. In her book Gifted Children, Ellen Wiener offers incredible description of prodigies. These are children who seem to be born with a heightened ability and obsessive interest and who, through relentless pursuit of this interest, become amazingly accomplished. Michael was one of the most precocious. He constantly played games involving letter and number, made his parents answer endless questions about letter and number, and spoke, read, and did math at an unbelievably early age. Michael's mother reported that at 4 months old, he said, Mom, Dad, what's for dinner? At 10 months, he astounded people in the supermarket by reading words from these signs. Everyone assumed his mother was doing some kind of ventriloquism thing. His father reported that at the 3, he was not only doing algebra, but discovering and proving algebraic rules. Each day when his father go home from work, Michael would put him toward math book and say, Dad, let's go to work. Michael must have started with a special ability, but for me, the most outstanding feature is his extreme love of learning and challenge. His parents could not tear him away from his demanding activity. The same is true for every prodigy Wiener describes. Most often people will believe that the gift is the ability itself. Yet what fits it is that constant endless curiosity, the challenge seeking it is. Is it ability or mindset? Was it more musical ability or the fact that he worked till his hands were deformed? Was it darn scientific ability or the fact that he collected specimens non-stop from early childhood? Prodigies or not, we all have interests that can blossom into abilities. As a child, I was fascinated by people, especially adults. I wonder what makes them tick. In fact, a few years back, one of my cousins reminded me of an episode that took place when we were 5 years old. We were at my grandmother's house and he had a big fight with his mother over when he could eat his candy. Later, we were sitting outside on the front steps and I said to him, Don't be so stupid, adults like to think they are in charge. Just say yes and then eat your candy when you want to. Were those the words of a budding psychologist? All I know is that my cousin told me this advice served him well. Interestingly, he became a dentist. Can everyone do well? Now, back to the first questions. Is everyone capable of great things with the right mindsets? Could you march into the worst high school in your state and teach a student college calculus? If you could, then one thing would be clear. With the right mindset and the right teaching, people are capable of a lot more than we think. Garfield High School was one of the worst schools in Los Angeles. To say that the students were turned off and the teachers burned out is an understatement. But without thinking twice, Jim Escalante taught this inner-city Hispanic student college-level calculus. With his growth mindset, he asked, how can I teach them? And not, can I teach them? And how will they learn the best? Not can they learn, but not only did he teach them calculus, he took them to the top of the national chart in math. In 1987, only 3 other public schools in the country had more students taking the advanced placement calculus tests. Those three included Stuyvesant High School and the Bronx High School of Science, both elite math and science-oriented schools in New York. What's more, most of the Granville students earned the test grades that were high enough to gain them college credit. In the whole country that year, only a few hundred Mexican-American students passed the test at this level. This means there is a lot of intelligence out there being wasted and by underestimating students' potential. Marfa Collins. Most often when kids are behind, say when they are repeating a grade, they are given tumbled down material on the assumption that they cannot handle more. That idea comes from the fixed mindset. These students are dim-witted, so they need the same simple thing drummed into them over and over. Well, the results are depressing. Students repeat the whole grade without learning any more than they knew before. Instead, Marfa Collins took inner-city Chicago kids who had failed in the public school and treated them like geniuses. Many of them had been labeled learning disabled, retarded, or emotionally disturbed. Virtually all of them were apathetic, no light in the eyes, no hope in the face. Collins' second-grade public school class started out with the lowest level reader there was. By June, they reached the middle of the fifth-grade reader, studying Aristotle, Aesop, Tolstoy, Shakespeare, Poe, Frost, and Dickinson along the way. Later, when she started his own school, Chicago Sun-Times columnist J. Smith dropped in. He saw 4-year-old writing sentences like "see the physician" and "I support fables," and talking about deep tongues and the critical mark. He observed second grade reciting passages from Shakespeare's Longfellow, Kipling. Shortly before, he had visited a rich suburban high school where many students had never heard of Shakespeare's shot. Said one of the college students, "You mean those rich high school kids don't know Shakespeare was born in 1564 and died in 1616? Students read huge amount, even over the summer. One student who had entered as a retarded 6-year-old, now 4 years later, had read 23 books over the summer, including A Tale of the Two Cities and a Jane Eyre. The students read deeply and thoughtfully as the 3- and 4-year-olds were reading about Daedalus and Icarus. One of the 4-year-olds exclaimed, "Mrs. Collins, reading about Daedalus and Icarus? If we don't learn and work hard, we will take an Icarian flight to nowhere." Heated discussion of Macbeth were common. Alfred Binet believed you could change the quality of someone's mind. Clearly you can, whether you measure these children by the breadth of their knowledge or by their performance on standardized tests. Their minds had been transformed. Benjamin Bloom, an eminent educational researcher, studied 120 outstanding achievers. They were concert pianists, sculptors, Olympic swimmers, world-class tennis players, mathematicians, and research neurologists. Most were not that remarkable as children and didn't show clear talent before their training began in earnest. Even by early adolescence, you usually couldn't predict their future accomplishment from their current ability. Only their continued motivation and commitment, along with their network and support, took them to the top. Bloom concludes, after 40 years of intensive research on school learning in the United States as well as abroad, my major conclusion is, what any person in the world can learn, almost all persons can learn if provided with the appropriate prior and current condition of learning. He is not counting the 2 to the 3% of children who have severe impairment, and he is not counting the top 1 to 2% of children at the other extreme that includes children like Michael. He is counting everybody else. Ability levels and tracking. But aren't students started into different ability level for a reason? Haven't their test score and past achievements shown what their ability is? Remember, test scores and measures of achievement tell you where a student is, but they don't tell you where a student could end up. Paul Korenberg, a researcher in Germany, studies school teachers with different mindsets. Some of the teachers had the fixed mindset. They believed that students entering their class with different achievement level were deeply and permanently different. According to my experienced student, achievement mostly remain constant in the course of a year. If I know student intelligent, I can predict their school career quite well. As a teacher, I have no influence on students' intellectual ability. Like my sixth grade teacher, Mrs. Wilson, this teacher preached and practiced the fixed mindset in their classroom. The student who started the year in a high ability group ended the year there, and those who started the year in the low ability group ended the year there. But some teachers preach and practice the growth mindset. They focus on the idea that all children could develop their skill, and in their classroom, a weird thing happened. It didn't matter whether a student started in the year in the high or the low ability group, both groups ended up the year way up high. It's a powerful experience to see this finding. The group differences had simply disappeared under the guidance of the teacher who taught for improvement, for this teacher had found a way to reach their low ability student. How teachers put a growth mindset into practice is the topic of a later chapter, but there is a preview of how Martha Collin, the re-owner teacher, did it. On the first day of class, she approached Freddie, a left-back second grader, who wanted no part of school. "Come on, Peach," she said to him, cupping his fist in her hands. "We have work to do. You cannot just sit in the seat of grow smart. I promise you are going to do. And you are going to produce. I'm not going to tell you you fail." Summary. The fixed mindset limits achievement. It fills people's mind with interfering thoughts, it makes effort disagreeable, and it leads to inferior learning strategies. What's more, it makes other people into judge and instead of allies. Whether we are talking about Darwin or college student, important achievement require clear focus, all our effort, and a bottomless trunk full of strategies. Plus, at least in learning, this is what the growth mindset gives people, and that's why it helps their ability to